I'm thinking about circumcision.
Yeah. Well, that's going at the beginning of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Inner Moxie Podcast, the podcast about not one, but two neurodivergent adults trying to live their lives on the Neuro D list and not hate themselves in the process. I'm your host, Ronnie.
And I'm Danny.
And this week, we are talking about circumscribed interests.
All right. So, where are you on your Moxie meter?
Well, I mean, I think last week, what was it, a 1?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a better spot. My inspection is over, so we'll just wait to see if they passive aggressively leave a "fix this or we're kicking you out" letter on my door, which is always fun. It's very strange to me being the one that's like, can't we just talk like adults? When I'm usually like, can't we just text about this?
Right.
But alas, that is the situation. But yeah, it's good. It's good to have that. It's a weight off my shoulders. And I've been a little burnt out by it, but like the kind of burnt out where I'm just a little bit on a mental vacation, or an energy vacation. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting a little behind on some of the stuff I need to do, but not so much that it's concerning me just yet. So I'm going to go with the threeest of threes, the most centrist center that ever centered, just right down the middle.
Okay.
I'm feeling. I'm not feeling sounds weird.
You're neutral?
Yeah, I'm very neutral.
Okay.
So I'm okay with that right now. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Sometimes neutral is good. Sometimes a 3 is a 5. It's
I don't understand that. Is that a saying?
No. I just mean sometimes, as speaking personally, I don't mean general, but like sometimes like it's really good to be just okay.
Oh yeah.
And right now I'm just okay, and being just okay feels really good after what I'm coming back from. So I guess that's what I mean by sometimes 3 is a 5.
That, and it does make sense now that you say that.
It's mathematically inaccurate. I want to be certain about that.
Well, I do know that. But thank you for explaining it.
No.
I've started asking for clarification on a lot of things, and I didn't realize just how much shit I just let go that I'm like, I just don't know what anything means.
I started doing that a couple of years ago. So I'm a better person than you. No. Yeah. I started doing that a few years ago, or trying to. I try to more of not just going along with stuff. It is astonishing when you actually start doing it, how much you realize, or at least for me, how much I realized I actually did it. I did not think it was that much.
I didn't either. And I'm just like, there's just so much I just didn't care to figure out. But, I am appreciative of learning these things because then I have a frame of reference for next time.
Yeah.
So it is important. So I'll just keep doing it and, just make it a little weird if it turns weird. Not that this one was weird, but, some people it's weird.
Well, and too, like, backtracking is always a little awkward, but worth it for different stuff. And I think it is smart because, like, I think we trust each other and have enough of a grasp on each other's vibe that you don't have to worry about this specifically. But like, what if 3 = 5 was some kind of like racist dog whistle or homophobic thing, and you're just like,
right? Oh yeah, then I would be a sympathizer.
Yeah,
silence is agreement, and I don't want to agree with that.
Well, and is an agreement.
Oh, yeah,
quite literally.
That too.
I worry about those kinds of things probably too much.
Maybe.
But I guess there's worse things to worry about.
I don't know.
How's your journey so far on trying to catch all of the things you asked for reclarification?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't cataloged it in my head in that way. I just know that I'm stopping and asking more. So it is interesting. It even happened what's today, Tuesday?
Today is Tuesday.
So yesterday, Monday, it feels like longer ago, someone was actually paying me a compliment, but she used a phrase I didn't understand. And I don't remember what it was, but I was like, oh, at least I know her well. Because I was like, I don't get it. And she's like, oh, it means this. And I was like, oh, thank you.
Aw.
She was just saying I think my outfit was good or something. I don't know. Anyway, as far as my meter goes, it almost feels like the last 3 weeks didn't happen. I mean, that's not entirely true. The world is still kind of loud, but it's getting better. So, not because my psychiatrist got back to me, because she hasn't. I finally got my meter. So out of 10, I'm probably between like a 7 and an 8.
Okay. That's good.
It is. It's great. I only say that because of my energy levels, and then I was affected by the Adderall shortage with the XR, which is the one that I rely on. You know, the Afternoonie is great, but I don't always use it, but I had to medicate myself this morning with it. Right. Which you can totally do that. It's just I don't know how.
All right. So just so I have this clear, the Afternoonie isn't just differentiated by time you take it. The Afternoonie is a different pill altogether.
Yes.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I always thought the one you take in the afternoon is called the Afternoonie.
No.
Because I know, like for mine, I have the option to take once or twice a day. So usually by around the time I'd need it, I'm kind of done. Powering down. Yeah. I use my big attention early in the morning. And so I don't usually use it, but yeah, it would be the same pill. I didn't know it was a different pill.
Yeah, it's different. I have 2. So I take 20 milligrams. So that's 2 capsules of Adderall XR in the morning, which is extended release.
Okay.
And so that lasts a bit longer. And then if I need it, I take rapid release in the afternoon. So they are literally 2 different pills. One is a pill and one is a capsule. I mean, I guess they're both pills, but one is like a solid thing and one is like a little filled gel cap thing.
Which makes more sense because you would want the rapid release so that it's out of your system by the time it's time to go to bed. Because I know that's the big concern. Yeah,
I mean, XR, I'm just used to it. I understand how that works for me. It does feel different. It's slightly different, but it's the same stuff. Just I don't understand the science behind it. I just know that they're different enough to have 2 different appearances. And so having to do the rapid release in the morning, like I just don't know how to do that. So the good news is I take 10 milligrams less in a day, because I'm not going to do 20 of that because that seems to be stronger or it hits me different, or I don't know.
Right.
So I don't know. I'll ask my psychiatrist when I talk to her about all this other stuff. But I did get, I emailed again the next day after we talked about it last week. So I remember I wanted to update, and I was like, it's okay if she's on vacation. I just feel like I'm kind of in the dark here. And
somebody can tell me she's on vacation. I'll accept that.
And that is when I got the auto response. And then a nurse also responded to me, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. And I'm like, yeah, sitting and waiting for 2 weeks for something like that shouldn't be a thing. Right. But whatever. At least now it does seem, not that it's getting resolved, but it isn't as loud, and I know that it has to do with like my own affect and things, and there was just a lot going on, but I am definitely feeling like more of myself, so I'm grateful for that. And this finger tattoo that I got is just so exciting. I know, several finger tattoo. Yes, if you're watching, you might be able to see this, although I'm not holding still and you're kind of far away. They have pause on YouTube. Okay. I don't know. I just love it. It just hurt. It hurt a lot, and so I'm a little edgy. No. But I joined the full dirtbag club, and there's no going back, and that feels wonderful. It's a good looking tattoo, and it goes well with your lease on life. Yeah. Thanks. I will tell if you're go find, I think he's at Mike UC Tattoo on Instagram. He's wonderful. Where is he located out of? Highland Park, Los Angeles. Okay. Yeah, he's wonderful. Anyway, okay. So maybe the next segment we should start calling it just like the brain dump, like anything we just need to get off our chest before that has nothing to do with our mental state. Okay, I'm good with that. So do you have anything that you wanted to follow up on from last time, or a hack, or I don't know, whatever?
No, if I'm being totally honest.
Please don't. Mask up.
I hate you. No.
Oh,
no,
well,
of course.
That's not a me problem.
You're absolutely lovely.
Thank you.
No, I was, it felt nice being here last week, but I was out of one, for some of the stressful things that were going on. So I don't really remember last week's episode very well. Like, even after having it spent, cause I edited them afterwards, and, even spending a few hours on the edit, I don't remember it too well.
Okay.
So I don't rightly remember if there's something I should have apologized for.
I mean, okay. I do have one correction, because last time I said everyone's in California is a mandated reporter. But,
that's right.
But that isn't true, although it should be. But anyone who works with kids basically is. There's a long list that I found.
And that's where I got mine for foster parent. Yeah. And yours was from, what'd you originally get it from?
I just thought it.
No. I mean, mandated reporter status.
I don't know. Some legal website.
No, I mean, what position was the first one? Because I know you did ABA for a while, right?
I'm still in that field.
Oh, okay.
But before that, what did I even do before that? Maybe not before that.
I know nanny was on the list, but I'm thinking there was probably stuff in between those two.
Yeah, well, between, working as a therapist in the training pre-licensed realm, there's a big thing in there. I mean, anytime you come into contact with kids, it's just kind of like a thing. And my mom is a teacher, so there's that too. So it's just always been like the narrative in my head, like, but it also feels, I mean, maybe everyone should kind of be mandated to report shit that they see that's not right with kids, because kids can't speak up for themselves. So you gotta fucking do it.
And I think in some places they're probably, this is so me talking outside of what I know, but I would assume that there would be in some places some kind of Good Samaritan law that might be stronger when it concerns children.
Or the mentality of, they need to handle that at home. Distrust of authority and all that. I do know that's a real thing, because authorities are not always kind to people.
No.
So, especially, and legal status has a lot to do with that sometimes too. They might just take my kids away because I'm not, a legal resident of wherever city this is, which is a big fear. And I do want to say that when it comes to mental health services through like county, whatever, no one is looking into that stuff, but I just want to throw that out there just in case that's on anybody's mind,
Yeah.
No one's going to call. I don't know who you call for that, but
I mean, like probably ICE, but
okay. Well, I didn't know that, and I was in the mental health field. So
right.
You can access mental health services is what I'm saying.
And which is a good thing to know.
Yes. No one's going to report you because that's super fucked up in my opinion.
No, I'll put it as a fact.
Oh yeah, I mean, everyone you should be mandated to report injustices when it happens to populations that can't speak for themselves.
Yeah, you're right.
That's how I feel. But I do, I have never really had like personal horrible experiences with the law.
I was going to say that, I am thankful that you brought up that for some people, who you are reporting to is an issue. That things have been known to get worse if reported to or not handled in the correct manner.
Yeah, and that's messed up.
It is,
and I don't know how to fix it, but it is a thing, and I do understand that. It's just, you can't fuck babies and get away with it in my head. Like, that's the worst. Fucking anyone that doesn't want it is the worst. But, like, especially someone who literally can do nothing about it.
Yeah.
and wouldn't, even if they could say it, wouldn't know who to, like, just, ugh. Don't be that. That's trash human shit.
Yeah.
But
I also agree that baby rape is bad.
Great. If anyone is pro baby rape, please identify yourself and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. You know what? Take back that 5-star rating you gave us.
Yeah, I don't want it. No. All right. Well, on that note, we're actually talking about something that's kind of on the more fun side today. But why not take it serious?
Yeah.
Sometimes. So today, okay. So within autism specifically, there's this whole thing about like special interest, or as the DSM puts it, God, I can't remember the words, but basically like restricted patterns of interest. And so I wanted to not just like talk about our own, which great, we will, but like, okay, so what is that? Because then I came across this term circumscribed interests, because special interests or the other way that people talk about it, I forgot, I didn't write it down because I learned that it was a little bit ableist. Anyway, like, what is it? Where does it come from? How is it experienced, like, from like a science view, kind of, but an interesting one.
Okay.
Anyway, let's just define it, shall we?
Indeed.
Okay, so a circumscribed interest is, okay, this is a little bit of sciencey part, a subcategory of restricted and repetitive behaviors that occur commonly in individuals with ASD and characterized by an intense and focused interest in a narrow range of subjects.
Okay, and then when you kind of explain it like that, I don't know, it almost feels kind of like the flip side of the coin of a stem.
Mm-hmm. It's in the same general area, like whatever that letter is of the diagnostic process. Mm-hmm. It comes from the same stuff, and I actually found some cool research that has to do with some of that.
Nice. Really quick, explain what a stem is, because I throw that term around sometimes. I forget some people don't know it.
Right. So like self-stimulatory behavior, it's a if you're thinking of a person with, classically presenting autism, let's say, maybe the hand in front of the face and like just watching fingers or anything, it's kind of hard to figure out the function of it other than sensory, which is, would this person be doing this in the presence or absence of people or, circumstances?
Right.
But it's something that I don't know that it's actually fully understood the full scope of it, but it's probably some sort of like self-soothing kind of thing or something that feels good, or maybe you feel that your body is doing something. So like, when you see, I said this thing, or like, spinning in a circle a lot. Why am I having a hard time describing this? Or like hitting, like,
which was a big one I mentioned on the show I've had before. And so just to be clear, that would be different than like there's probably a better name for this, but then like a tic, which would be like somebody with Tourette's might have, which is like an uncontrollable compulsion to do something. Right. Whereas stimming seems to be more of an absent-minded thing to soothe yourself. Possibly.
It's hard to understand without getting mentalistic, which is not in the realm of behavior analysis.
Right.
But it appears to serve some kind of purpose that satisfies something within the person that is not observable otherwise in the environment. Okay. Which is not super helpful. I don't think. But I mean, on paper, that is how I would describe that. Yeah. But
like the general thing is kind of a weird movement that makes somebody feel better.
Yeah.
Usually with.
Yes. It's not. Yeah. And it doesn't appear to be like a compulsive, itch to scratch, but maybe it is.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't look like a tic in a person with, I just happened to watch the season 2 of The Vow since last week. So there was this whole. Oh, Nexium? Keith Raniere?
All of these words mean
Cult,
nothing to me.
famous people cult.
Okay, I know.
Okay,
cult.
well, they also claimed, and some people were kind of cured of, what is it you just said?
Tourette's. Okay.
Oh, horribly. Like, the process is not great, but the end result was the Tourette's either diminished to almost nothing or completely left, which is a big thing because, Tourette's is very invasive.
Yeah.
All of that to say, I just watched that. I don't know. I'm already, all Adderall has left the building. And so we're left with my sleepy thoughts. Pure sleepy Xanny disorganization.
But speaking of cults, this is a fact that I learned this week. And I've been trying to work it into some other media, and I have absolutely no way to. So I'll just share it with you because I know you're into cults.
I am.
You're familiar with the Jonestown Massacre? Yeah.
That's Cult 101.
Yeah. Mass suicide. And that's where we get the phrase,
don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid from. It was Flavor Aid. So
yeah.
Technically, don't drink the Flavor Aid.
Don't drink the Flavor Aid.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go to Jonestown. Yeah, I did a deep dive on that in my doctorate program for a project. Anyway, for a different day.
Fun.
Yeah, to me it is fun. It's a special interest of mine, a circumscribed interest. Okay. And I wanted to make the distinction as well because circumscribed or special interests are very highly associated with especially, like, you used to say high functioning, but like low support needs, autism.
Okay.
It probably just presents differently. If you're talking to someone and all of a sudden, like, they just can't get off of a certain subject that you're just like, I'm over this, and they just don't seem to get it. Like, that person probably is on the spectrum, right? Like, that's pretty evident. But like hyper focus is a little bit different. So like with the special interest, I want to get into different information now, but okay. Hyperfocus, complete absorption in a task to a point where a person appears to completely ignore or tune out everything else. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that they're interested in long-term and want to know every detail about, but it's like the compulsion to finish that task, or they're immersed in whatever that task is and they have to finish it. Like
the kind of, not in a selfish way or anything like that. In a, like, I'll describe when I've gone into it, because I've gone into hyper focuses on things I love doing. I've gone into hyper focuses on things I don't love doing. But the rest of the world just kind of melts away when you're in it. And people think that like that means you get like all intense and have like no, it's just like, this is the world now, is this task. And it is not the person's fault, but so aggravating when someone from outside the world has something to say, because it's like, no, you don't understand. This is all I'm doing right now. And and obviously I'm saying that to you to explain it. I try and be more polite to people that actually interrupt it. But
I mean, same, but it like the feeling is like, if you do not shut up and let me do this, I'm going to die. Like, I don't know why it feels like that, but it does.
In bringing up, I'm going to die, I think that's a perfectly good point. It feels like while you're doing it, it is the most natural thing in the world. It feels like it's the only thing in the world to be doing. Yes. Not like because it's so cool.
Right.
It just doesn't seem like there's anything else. But the second someone interrupts you, it's like, I am diffusing a fucking bomb here.
Yes.
But it doesn't feel like that until someone interrupts you.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. For me, sometimes it does extend it because, I mean, recently I had to do something that I couldn't get done within the time of a day, whatever that day, like the work day, even stayed late, whatever.
Sure.
It was bigger than that. And the level of absorption in that, like, I went home thinking about it, like, and this is not stress related. This is not like, oh, if I don't do this, my boss is going to, it has nothing to do with any of that. It's like, this task is unfinished. I feel dysregulated about that. All I want to do is finish this and be all done. And that doesn't go away until it's done or resolved. but usually it's a task thing. So that is a big difference. Okay, so I think what I want to do before I get into some other stuff, there's something that I read that kind of like puts this into a little bit of perspective in comparison with like neurotypical people. So, and it's just a couple things I just need to read.
Sure.
I mean, it's in the context. I mean, okay, so
let me ask you this in all seriousness. I know this. If I don't let you read them, if we move on, how much is it going to bug you?
I will leave.
Is that part of what we were just talking about with the?
Maybe because this is what we're doing now, and I prepared this for this, and now feels like the right time to do this. And if we don't do this now, my insights are already the nails on the chalkboard thing that I talked about. It doesn't. It's not a sound. It's a feeling. Like I just needed to say this. Like they say it gets real painful, and it really does.
Well,
like when you can't move on.
I apologize for, and also I'm 100% with you. I
no, it's good.
I thought it might be illustrative of what it might look like in the moment.
Oh, 100%. That's a great thing to bring up, actually, in real time.
Yeah.
What it's like. And, since we have basically the full use of the English language, we can explain it as it comes up. And the best time is in the moment. Okay, so this is a slight deviation, but it all relates. Just trust me, because I'm a religion and a disease. Don't forget. So
never forget about the disease.
Please don't. I mean, it's equally valid. Monotropism, which is just an alternative method of attention that autistics favor, relating to how attention varies in strength-based. It's not strength-based. That would have a dash. You're not even looking at this, anybody. Let me start that sentence again. An alternative method of attention that autistics favor, relating to how attention varies in strength based on one's interests and how motivated they are in pursuing it, which is something that a lot of people actually feel but never had a word or a term for. So that's kind of like within this realm. So like the way that they describe this, and there should have been a comment or a comma after the strength, and then I wouldn't have had that problem, because I did this earlier too.
That's okay.
It is okay. That no one's dying over this. Okay, so for a person on the spectrum, okay, it might be helpful to think of attention as a dark tunnel. They say our because the person that wrote this is on the spectrum. Okay. Our focus, or how we control our attention to a specific source of information, can be characterized as the beam of light shining down the tunnel. As autistics, we tend to have an extremely narrow attention tunnel, meaning that we shine a light or focus, or meaning that when we shine a light focus, it shines brightly and directly on the small end of the tunnel. This light, while far-reaching, is so bright that everything not directly lit is unseen. Likewise, when we focus our attention on a specific interest, we tend to lose awareness of everything else going on in our immediate surroundings, including our environment and the people around us. This intense focus on a singular interest, while excluding all other information, can make it difficult for autistics to switch their attention between interests when the situation calls for it. So that's just kind of like a bird's eye view into like why if you're talking to someone and they just can't seem to get off of a certain topic, this is probably what's going on.
And this, to clarify again, is the special interest, or the
circumscribed, circumcised interest.
The circumcised interest, not hyperfocus. This is different from hyperfocus.
Yeah, this is different from hyperfocus. But there is some blending, and I think the fact that you and I are most likely ADHD. Autism/ADHD probably mean it's kind of hard to suss out when it's both.
Right.
But then, okay, so then she also wrote about, what it's like for neurotypicals. So that I think is important to like contrast. So I'm going to have full use of the staple. Okay. On the other hand, neurotypicals tend to have a wider attention tunnel where their light of focus is more diffuse and widespread. This reveals much more visual information from various areas within the tunnel, meaning that they find it easier to hold multiple interests in mind at the same time. This is called polytropism. With more information taking up their attention, neurotypicals are less concerned with knowing the specific details of one topic and are less invested in these interests compared to autistics. They may find it easier to switch between interests in a conversation seamlessly, drawing from multiple stores of long-term and working memory. So that's just kind of like the difference. And like this makes sense. I do think, at least for me, I can switch topics because I think I'm pretty good at masking the irritation and understand that the situation calls for moving on now.
Well, and you've expressed that you have, and I agree with this, you have pretty good pattern recognition. And I don't have as good a pattern recognition, but I also have anxiety. So I worry from the get-go that I'm boring people with my talk. With my talk? That's such a fucking weird way to say that.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a weird way to say it. I understood.
Yeah. But yeah, I just...
so you're saying that every time you talk, you feel like no... I don't remember. I think we did talk about this on a previous episode. You're saying that you cannot tell when someone is actually getting bored with what you're talking about, and you just assume that everybody is bored all the time?
Yes. Or a majority of the time. Or let me put it this. By the time I question it, the answer will always be yes in my head.
Okay.
I will start blabbering to people without questioning it, because it is a little bit of that, me and you are both cat people, but excited puppy thing of like, oh, this happened, blah, 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 blah. But like I have to physically remind myself, like I know it was... me and you have talked about it off mic, but I very recently, like less than a year, just randomly almost got into professional wrestling in WWE.
We talked about this?
Yeah, we brought it up really quick.
Wait. Oh, yeah. No, you're right. I thought you almost became a wrestler.
No.
And I'm like, we did not talk about that.
No. Like I literally never watched wrestling like since the 80s, and I was only alive for 6 years of the 80s.
Same.
And like I literally less than a year ago, for reasons, I was like, I'm going to give this a shot, and I am immediately in love with it. And so like I watched my first WrestleMania, and I had to walk around my house and I'm like, okay, nobody else cares about this but you, Ronnie. Yeah, you can't talk about it. And it will be like I see someone and I'll be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And then I'll remember, I was like, nobody cares about this but you. And in that situation, it's true. I'm sure there's other situations where people, and the people in my house, I'm not trying to say anything like that. But people do care about the things I say. But yeah, it's just, it's a whole, I cried at and I don't know if that is, I'm getting old, or if that is just because this is a new thing I really love, but WrestleMania made me cry, and I did not, that was not on, I would say, my bingo card for 2024, on my bingo card for life. I did not expect, Ronnie will cry at WrestleMania, but also I'm a crier. So
yeah, you said you're a crier. I kind of want to ask why you cried, sure, with the caveat that you already know I don't really care a lot about that, but I am interested to know why it made you cry.
There were two things that made me cry.
Okay.
There's a wrestler named Sami Zayn, and he used to do, and people listening, I'm sure, will catch lots of holes. I'm very new to this still. But there is a wrestler named Kevin Owens that he used to tag team with. It was the big thing. But then he got sent to another night. Basically, like the nights are different, like divisions almost. Which is, it's hard talking about because I can't even relate back to regular sports because I don't watch regular sports. But anyway, Sami Zayn was having like the biggest fight of his career, and then he's like walking down the aisle, and right before he goes out the doors to wrestle, there was Kevin Owens, which was his big buddy, and he like hadn't seen him in months, and they gave a big hug, and then I shed tears. But then the big one,
maybe because your friend moved to Portland,
maybe,
or because you can cry whenever you want.
Yeah,
but
I wish that
I did listen to our last episode today, so it's fresh.
And then the other one was just, I mean, the ending of WrestleMania, which was there's a guy named Cody Rhodes, and he finished his story, which is, I guess, a thing they've been saying about him for years. But I guess he was like always trying to get to that spot of winning WrestleMania, and it was kind of robbed from him last year and like this year. And then like The Rock showed up for reasons I don't understand. Well, I mean, I understand in the fact that he was a professional wrestler. I wasn't so dumb that
wasn't his whole family in wrestling?
Yes, and still are.
Okay. Well, maybe that's
and that was the whole thing. He showed up because he was like, it is a soap opera. So if I get into it, then it goes deep, and I don't know enough to go deep on it.
I don't like soap operas.
But what was I going to say? Oh, but the whole thing was Cody Rhodes. The big thing he was fighting was a guy named, Roman Reigns, who is The Rock's cousin. And so, anyway, big spectacle, a billion things happen. But it was the end of this storyline that I was most like, that I just kind of caught in with. And so, and I guess, Cody Rhodes, and this like goes back to when we were kids. Do you remember, The American Dream? Anyway, his dad was a famous wrestler.
That's a name of, I was like, I know what the American Dream is.
Yeah. But that's why Cody Rhodes is the American Nightmare.
Okay.
Anyway, this isn't a podcast about wrestling, but those are the two things that made me cry. It was brotherly friendship, like man on man love is so rare. And to see it in it's not rare. It's rare that you get to express it, and to see it in such a sport that has a reputation for having such machismo, or a sports entertainment
full of testosterone.
Yeah. That was very touching. I love man on man love. And then of course, like the arc of, a story ended, and it ended with a happy ending, and it got me emotionally.
Well,
so that's my WrestleMania. But also, like, I was sitting with that, and I was like, nobody else cares. And so it's hard not to share that with people, though, especially when like it just happened.
Yeah. So you're saying it's hard for you. For me, it is not hard at all. I don't feel the need to share stuff like, I mean, I will talk about it, but like, I don't feel like if I don't say this just happened to me, that nothing happens to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, I think, relating wise, I think we're very different.
Mm-hmm. I'd say that.
Not one better than the other.
Yeah.
Just, I'm maybe more like even keel, like don't vary from the middle, and you feel your emotions.
I try to.
You seem to.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, well, and also like too, I do try and love deeply, and I love to share those things with people. Like, I know some people are of the and this is totally respectable. Be like, I guess, you know what? Fantasy football is a good example of it, that I play fantasy football every year. If it weren't for my friends, I wouldn't do that. But my friends really love it. And then so, and I've grown to like it. But the exciting part for me is to get to share something with my friends.
Oh.
And so sharing with people is something I find very, very exciting. And so I feel like when a big event happens like that, or you know what, like, to take it out of like wrestling, this very specific thing, like when Avengers Infinity War happened.
Movie.
I know. This is a spoiler alert, but like this became like the biggest news. I don't know how you could miss this and care about it.
I was like, oh, I could
and you can miss it because you didn't care about it. That's okay. But the infamous snap happened, and half the population in the world died in the movie. Real world, everybody was safe. But there was a snap. Half the population, so half the Avengers included, died. And, Endgame came out a year later, and they found a way to bring most of them back. But like that was like so huge, and I wanted to talk about that with everybody. Lost was a big one for me. Friends who also watched Lost, but like that, it wasn't like, as much as I would love to talk about Lost now, it wasn't like when Lost was
We're like 3 for 3. I hate Lost.
But like the first season of Lost to me was like, and I think there are also other great seasons of Lost, but like it was that like, I got to talk about this every week. Part of the joy was sharing that with other people. And so sometimes there's just stuff that it's like, this is great, and I'm glad that I have it for me, but not being able to share it is not ideal.
Okay.
And then so I will start sharing, and then I'll remember, just because I'm into this doesn't mean everybody else is.
Yeah. I learned something about I just feel like I just keep learning things about myself. And as you were saying all this, and I was like, I really don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have to remind myself that people appreciate general information about my life.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, I mean, I don't know. I care about other people.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I would say, other than like in the romantic sense, I do feel love towards people, but it doesn't feel like when they're not there, like I just know that they're there unless they're dead. Like,
right.
Like I just trust that they're fine. And if they weren't, I would find out at some point. I don't know. Like, and if they have something big they want to tell me, then they can tell me. But like, I have to remind myself, as I'm learning all of these things, like if I didn't get something out of talking, I wouldn't be on a podcast. Okay. Like I do understand. Mm-hmm. And I talk a lot at work too, and that has stuff to do with it. But like, the compulsion or the need to share something in order to, like, that's not my first nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I would talk out loud at my house by myself to my cats or whatever all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel like if something big happens within a special interest of mine that if I don't talk and share about it, then my experience is not affected in that way. It's just weird. Like I just have never really thought about it in those terms before.
If it makes you feel better, I am one of the reasons I was kind of struggling to explain is because I'd never really thought about it in those terms until we started talking about it right now.
I mean, it's great for like self-discovery and stuff. And it's just like interesting to see how things look for different people. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't feel bad about any of the way that I am. I accept me as is now, and like this is just like how it is for me. I also understand I don't live in a universe that is just made for me. Mm-hmm. So interacting with other people is part of it. And I do like to be around other people. Mm-hmm. Just most of the time I don't. Mm-hmm. I don't like to interact. I have a lot of friends, I would say, actually, but actual seeing and hanging out is few and far between. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel sad. Mm-hmm. Or lonely. I really enjoy my time by myself.
I was gonna say, and I wonder if this is just a different type of people thing, or specifically a neurodiverse thing, or something like that. Because I often too, some of the framings I have for friendship, I think, change or might be different than some of my friends. Like I have a good friend, and I can say that. But he moved away to Boston with his wife. They got married, went to Boston. I don't blame them for that. I've maybe seen him once or twice since he moved about a decade ago. And I have, like, the day he got married, I knew before that his name's Ben. I'm just going to say his name, Ben. If you're listening, I love you, Ben. But Ben is a man I very much love. But like, I knew when he got married, I may never see Ben again. And I know that for some people that kind of feels like a betrayal. And like, that never added up that way to me. It felt like, Ben was in my life for these however many years. Oh, Jesus. I was younger. So it probably, I met, we'll call it a decade, my 20s. That me and Ben were really close. And I may never see him again. And he's not dead. Mm-hmm. He's, I could text him right now. And I have texted him off and on over the years. But like, I don't see why the Ben of the rest of my life not being in my life makes it any less, makes the Ben of the 10 years that he was in my life any less important at all. And I know some people see it like that. Like it feels like that whatever is now is the most important. And I don't know. It just doesn't feel, I even kind of think that way about exes of like, well, and you had a lot rougher era divorce and stuff like that. But the majority of my exes, I'm like, honestly, pretty good up until when it wasn't. And then I'm like, but I don't have to let when it wasn't be the whole thing. Yeah. And I don't know why my brain compartmentalizes like that. And as I grow older, I kind of find that maybe that's not something that a lot of people do. No,
well, because the saying, if you love something, set it free, and it'll come back to you. If whatever the whole thing is, I don't know it, but like, that is real love, right? As far as I can understand, because other than that, it's just control and completely just self-serving interest, I would assume. Because, if a person, when I was younger, I kind of didn't understand that friendships or relationships are kind of like seasonal. And just because you may never see your friend Ben again doesn't mean that you're less of a friend now. Like, if you randomly saw him, on the street or whatever, you would probably pick up a conversation and have a lot of fun. It probably wouldn't be weird. And that's...
it would definitely be weird.
But not awkward. And some people are just like, well, if you're going to change, if you're going to move all the way over there and we're not going to talk every day like we do now, well, then we're done. Because that's like, people like to have a final note so that they know what comes next sometimes or something, Yeah. And a lot of that disguises maybe hurt and being honest with oneself about, this hurts my feelings that I may not see this person again. And instead of being sad, I can get angry because that's easier.
Yeah.
They say it's a secondary emotion. Being angry isn't easy, but it's probably easier than admitting it, that you're feeling sad, or, vulnerability is very difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and two, I think there is something to be said of this makes it sound a lot colder than maybe it should, but I hope it doesn't come off that way. But I think relationships in a lot of ways are parallel, not exactly the same, but kind of parallel with a contract. Obviously marriage is like a literal contract. But I think we treat that with, and so I think sometimes there is, we all understand, like that people have to move and times and seasons and stuff like that. But when someone else, when you would have made more of an effort to be in someone's life than they would have made to be in yours, I could see where that would be hurtful.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. There's no simple way of, breaking all that down. Individual motivation is a lot of things. I just know I have different friends that I do different things with, and that's because our interests intersect. Because I do think now that there was a question on the questionnaire that I filled out, if other people are in the room, would you rather be basically doing like parallel stuff or interactional stuff? And I think my honest answer is probably parallel. Like if we're both playing a game on our phone or something. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, not always, if it's not a conversation, like I don't feel like I have to be doing something with them. We could both be watching something on the TV. We could, be doing our own things, but in the same space. Like to me, that feels the same as relating in a conversation sometimes.
Yeah.
To me, I don't know. Anyway, we got way away from this, which is fine.
Yeah.
So from this one study that I saw, that I liked the results of, they were different kind of than the other ones. They looked at people on the spectrum and neurotypical people and how interests are cultivated. And some of the findings that they found, first of all, they say things about the study like, interests and hobbies are an important feature in development in children and adolescents because they offer avenues for social or social connection and interaction. Okay. So like some of the results, so interest in, they labeled this as high functioning autism individuals, ASD individuals, which, low support needs is what we say now. Anyway, that group are more intense, but not more limited in number or scope than neurotypical people. So everybody may all have like 5 things that they really enjoy talking about. Neurotypical, neurodivergent, whatever. Just the level of focus and intensity is much higher in people on the spectrum, which makes a lot of sense. But it was kind of a groundbreaking finding that number of interests was about the same. Which, they would say about a person on the spectrum, limited number of interests. It's like, no. Just limit. Maybe there's a number of it. I would say that I know a lot about a few things, but I have some general interests too.
Yeah.
Where I don't have to know every fact, but there are some things that I, go and nerd out about. That's how I say it. So that was kind of interesting. So let me see. How can I say this a little bit better? So another finding, fact, object, and sensory-oriented interests are greater in people on the spectrum, while people and sports-oriented interests are greater in neurotypical individuals, which kind of makes sense.
I guess, yeah.
Let's see. And then another interesting tidbit. So neurotypicals tend to acquire dopamine from social situations and experience diminished pleasure from repeated exposure to foods, doing things and tasks, which is the opposite for people on the spectrum, which makes total sense to me. But I'm like, are we talking about autism or introverts or an intersection? I don't know. It was not clear.
Right.
But I
was foods on that list?
Repetitive food. Like, honestly, I could eat, like, when I'm on a kick of something. So I just got off of one where I cracked the code on making hot and sour soup that tastes like it's from a restaurant. I could eat that for dinner every day for like 2 months, like a really long time. And some people, like even at work, I have to eat something different every couple of days. It was like, if I could just like food prep things and just have like a couple different sauces on hand, I can make, I have Brussels sprouts and chicken that I'm eating for lunch right now. And I have a certain sauce at work and a certain sauce at home, and it just does the trick. I don't want to make dinner every night. I want to cook like once a week.
I have I don't have any problem with eating things over and over and over again. Like that doesn't feel bad to me. The only reason I don't is a little bit of FOMO because I love food and I'm like, oh, I just, as much as, or I don't mind eating the same thing over again, but I love eating new things and trying new things. So it's never an issue of, oh, I can't eat the same thing. I just had this yesterday.
Yeah.
And maybe that's
and those
the same
are two
for
different
everybody,
things.
but yeah.
Cause like I'm a very adventurous eater, I would say. But when it comes to just like, the basics, okay, here comes my work week. Okay, what am I going to prepare? What do I feel like eating? Every time I'm like, oh, I want to make this, but I am still kind of want, it just, that food goes to waste basically.
Yeah.
So I've just stopped trying to do that.
Well, like I know for like, I have obviously for dinner or some, but I've had like the same breakfast and lunch every day for months before. That's just not an issue for me.
But it sounds like other people who are neurotypical may hate that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I've done that. Like I've done meal prep with my wife before, and she's like, "Ah, I just can't have another one of those wraps. Like we made wraps or something like that." And I was like, "What do you mean? We've only been eating for 3 weeks." And then and so like what you said, I was like, there's different sauces.
Yeah.
This is virtually a buffet.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, that was basically all like the research kind of stuff. I don't know if you prepared, you already dropped some of your special interests, but I did prepare a list of things that I could explain that were more than the typical interests.
Can I ask you a question and see if you came across any of it on your research?
Yeah.
Because a lot of this is very heavily autism leaning or weighted. But the ADHD folks, we have a little bit of a reputation for kind of for hobby collecting. Maybe blowing through lots and lots of hobbies. Was that anything you looked up or I guess, do you know if this would be related or if this would be kind of, because it does seem its own like distinct thing.
No, I didn't. I looked up circumscribed interests and ADHD, and unless it's a comorbidity, basically, which just means both are present.
Right.
It's almost not exclusively, but like most pronounced in the autism community, which I do. I think we both have, so, which is what. But that seems more of like an attention thing than a focus thing. When you say blowing through hobbies, are you talking about like, I'm going to get into this, I'm going to get all the stuff, and then, I'm going to move on to this other one, and like just like having all the shit for all these different things you never followed through with? Or
that's the stereotype.
Okay.
I will say I personally am half in that stereotype. A big part of that stereotype is that people with ADHD start up new hobbies. They're getting that hit of dopamine. They're searching that out. But it fades pretty quickly, and then you have a big set of hobby stuff that you're no longer interested in. I am excessively cheap. And when I have money, I'm excessively cheap. I am not in a spot where I have a lot of money recently. So I also am in spending even less. So like the spending habit is never that huge with me. Like I'm more likely to spend money on, technologies, for like I always have a pretty nice computer. Classically, because I've done work on the computer.
Yeah.
But like I will say the number of interests I have, and I never fully put them away. Like there's a bunch. I would say that at any point, if if I were not trying, if I'm unmasking the things that I consider that I am in the middle of, and I still have every intention of completing, I call them my projects. There are many of them. Mm-hmm. And I don't know where that, if that kind of plays around, if that's like the cousin of a special interest for ADHD folks. But that is a reputation we have, and one that I align with about halfway, because I do start, but like I have every intention that I am going to I'm going to completely refurbish my pinball machine, and I'm going to completely get my fighter up and going, and I'm going to completely get my main machine up and going, and then I'm going to build my own personal handheld system, and I am going to do just any of the millions of tasks that I have started.
Yeah.
And the hobbies I have collected over the years.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was looking at that article because there was a little bit, but I was like, this is just having to do with focus and not the...
Right.
So, yeah.
And I will say, when they start, it is that hyper-focus thing. It is that, like...
Well, yeah, because it's exciting and it's new.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I've been trying to teach myself how to, like, follow through with things. And, like, the thing that has helped me the most is, like, recognizing that, okay, if I have this long-term goal of finishing this thing,
mm-hmm.
if I'm going to wait for the muse is never going to show up. You know, mm-hmm. repetition is the key. Mm-hmm. So, that has been helpful. That's how I wrote my first draft of my memoir.
Which is no small task.
Right. But it felt like it because I was just doing a little bit every day. Mm-hmm. You know, I'd set, okay, do 500 words 5 days a week. And I would write them out in my calendar. But then I did way more than that usually. I couldn't just stop at 500. Mm-hmm. And I can type really fast. They were like
Pringles.
They were. Yeah. I forget what we were talking about.
Sorry, sometimes I'm just so funny.
You are. Do you see how I'm laughing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And do you see how I just headbutted the microphone that is listening
the microphone
to my
had it coming. It said
did.
Far too good for far too long.
Right. So when I was thinking about circumscribed interests
mm-hmm.
and myself, and you know, thinking about from childhood, I was like, okay, in a very specific way, Disney theme parks is this for me. And I'll explain why. Many people love Disney. I love Disney, but not in the historical way, not in the know everything of new way. Mm-hmm. But okay, so even when I was like a kid, I remember doing this in the months leading up to like a trip we were going to take when I was in 5th grade, because I grew up in the Bay Area up north. So we were going to come down to Disneyland. It was just going to be my Aunt Kathy, my mom, and my brother and me. My dad had to work, couldn't get the time. I don't know what the situation was, why he didn't
mm-hmm.
go. Months before that, this was pre-internet. As far as accessibility,
I know. I hate every time you say pre-internet and some assholes like, well, actually, they had it from the late 70s. It's like, shut up. You know what I mean?
Yes. Accessibility wise, it was pre-internet. So we had this book called The Unofficial Guide to Disneyland. And what I was hyper focused on for months, writing shit out, learning everything. This told you when the best times to go on certain rides were and the best paths to take. So I would just plan out our entire trip every day, multiple different scenarios. Okay, the parade's going on. Okay, we have to go over Indiana Jones at this time if we didn't get there right at the beginning. But like extensive planning around all of that.
Right.
My mom was really into it too, so I did have someone to talk about it with. So I guess maybe I do enjoy sharing things sometimes. But anyway, my brother didn't care about this that I can remember. He was in 2nd grade. Maybe not. I don't. Anyway.
What grade were you in?
I don't know. Indiana Jones had just opened.
So that was pretty.
10.
Yeah.
4th or 5th grade.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I wouldn't have been 94, but yeah, 4.
Yeah. So to the extent that it took up, I wanted to learn everything there was to know about when the best times to go on rides are, because for me, and this there's more theme parks. You know, I could do this for a lot of them. It's just Disney was the one I went to most as a kid. But no, waiting in line as little as possible because of waiting was hard for a long time. Now I can do it. But like it was really hard for a long time. This is pre-fast pass. Maybe not. I think it was the paper ones. It must have just come.
I can't imagine there have been fast passes around, especially when.
Well, I remember the tickets. Maybe it wasn't. I don't remember. Anyway,
you clearly care about it a lot more than me, so your memory's practically.
Yes, yeah. I mean I could talk about this for a really long time, but it's like access to getting on the rides. That is the area of special interest within Disneyland, and that has been there since I was little. It still exists now. I have two very different groups of people that I go to Disney with. One, we drink beer or whatever. I mean, I haven't lately, but like we go and we have a couple drinks, then we just go on things maybe, and we just talk, and we're just in the atmosphere basically. And since I understand that about that time, like it's not as important, at least at Disneyland with my annual pass, that we go on everything. Right. I do get this pent up sensory anxiety until I go on a ride. It doesn't matter if it's a fast one or a slow one. After I hit a ride at a Disney park, then I'm fine. But until then, I have this like this thing inside that is like, you need to get on a ride now. Like you have to get on now. Nothing is right. You don't stop for pictures. You don't do any of this shit. You got to get on a ride now first. So there's that. But I
was gonna say I'm very much this way about vacations. And I would say specifically Las Vegas, but we'll talk about that later. Keep going.
Okay. Well, I mean that was basically it. Okay. But like I feel like to the level that I was so focused on that type of planning in 4th or 5th grade, right? And that extends to like now, if I was gonna plan a trip to Disney World or Universal Studios in Florida or something that I hadn't gone to, I would try to absorb everything there was to know about each specific ride and crowd patterns and things. Anyway,
let me ask you 2 questions. Okay, first of all, how much of that do you think is like the challenge of it? Like it feels like a challenge, and then how much of that? You know what? Let's just stick with the one question because that's all I remember.
I don't know. What is the purpose of that question? Because it doesn't feel like a challenge.
Or like, is it more about solving a puzzle? Because like the way you were...
I love puzzles, so maybe.
Because like the way you were describing it was like, we have to go to this thing at this time. We go to this. And I guess that's what I mean. Not necessarily challenge of it.
It's like the piecing together and like doing everything at the right time. I get the same way about like I hit like 4 different stores during the week to get the best price on weird shit. Like if I want cereal, I will only get it at Target because it won't be stale and it'll be the cheapest price you can get. I just have weird stuff like that where, and I don't mind going to 4 different stores. In fact, I don't go do all my grocery shopping on the same day because it's just me. I can do whatever I want.
I double grocery shop a lot of weeks. But like to your extent, like because I feel like I don't know. To me there is like challenge might not be the world, but it is like a puzzle. Yeah, and
my brain is much more active. And this, you know what? Now that you say that, my entire list has to do with that. So like another one of mine is like diet and exercise. So like whatever I'm into, I'm like really into it and trying to do it to fidelity, which just means like doing it the way that it was intended. And like Weight Watchers did a lot for me for a long time because of the math of it, because it's points. It's not just calorie shit. Like I don't like to count calories. I don't like to do diets. Don't work. This is not that podcast, but I could go and talk about it a lot because I spent a lot of time and effort there. But yeah, the making it complicated, and once things are complicated, then my brain is engaged. If it's easy, I'm almost disinterested. And actually, I did find that in some of the research that I found was people who were, I don't remember if it was ASD or neuro-D, which one. People, I think it was spectrum stuff. People on the spectrum, or maybe it was ADHD, I don't know. Okay, neuro-D people, we'll just say, because I don't remember. Versus neurotypical people. 70% of the workday, they chose to do the hard tasks. And neurotypical people, only 11% of people chose to do hard tasks for like 70% of their workday, something like that. To where, you know, like that challenge is there, that compulsion to do the, you know, I don't know, complicated stuff just really seems to get most of us going.
I will say, if there is, because I don't even think it's about difficulty level so much. If for me, and I don't know how much this, how much you might relate to this, but if there is a puzzle to be solved, that will get me going. That, I think that's, it is one of the reasons I like editing so much. It was one of the reasons that really kept me going when I would be on sets. Is you know, they talk about, and this is more of an ADHD thing, but like gamifying, like tasks that you have to do. But like, to me, if I can make it a puzzle, that, and I don't know what it is. Like, I grew up like some of my favorite games were like, I forget what they were called, but do you remember they had them by grade, and they were like white pieces of paper that had like quiz questions on them. And you could
brain age,
yeah,
IQ,
something like that.
IQ.
Yeah. But you remember what I'm talking about,
do.
right? Fucking love those things. Do you remember Quiz Whiz?
No. Do you remember the Oregon Trail?
First of all,
or Number Munchers.
Reading Rabbit, I think, might have been my Number Munchers.
No. Prime numbers all day.
But there's Quiz Whiz was one. It was a Tiger Electronic. It was a handheld that you could open up, and it had a little booklet of questions, and then you would dial in the number of the question, and then you would press your answer. It was multiple choice and tell you if you got it wrong or right.
I don't know what that is.
They also, I love that. I still have one. Do you remember 2XL, the robot?
No.
2XL. Well, he was a robot that I think originally came out with 8 tracks in the late 70s, but updated version came out around the time we were kids. And he was like a little plastic robot, and you would put a tape in his belly. Kind of like a nerdy ass Teddy Ruxpin now that I'm describing it out loud. But you know, they would use the 4 tracks.
I can't not sing this. Come read with me tonight. Sorry, I ruined your flow. It just felt like I was gonna die if I didn't sing it.
I will not forget this flow. I am talking about my 2XL.
True.
But yeah, you put a tape in his belly, and tape, because it was, you know, two sides, stereo on each, so that added up to 4 tracks. So you have 4 buttons that you could press. That part's not important of how it works, but you had 4 buttons you can press, and it was a multiple choice. The robot would talk to you and tell jokes. And later they actually started doing like choose your own adventures with them. But like, fucking love 2XL. I still have a 2XL. By the way, embarrassingly old, like probably in my 30s, when I was like, 2XL. It's like 2XL, like do well.
Oh yeah.
But it was just 2X. I remember when I was a kid, one time I was like, we passed by this pizza place.
2 extra larges?
Yeah, but I was like, look, you can get free 2XL tapes, and my mom was like, no, that's not what it means. So the point I wanted is, even though I liked all these brain games, don't mistake me for smart. This isn't about like, I was so intelligent when I was a kid, but I just fucking, like, when point and click adventure games came out, I don't know. I am literally just unlocking this about myself right now, that this is why I fucking love point and click adventure games. I love figuring things out. And it is...
What games are in that category?
So like Sierra was a big one with all the quest games, King's Quest and Space Quest. You have the Leisure Suit Larry series.
And none of these are familiar.
I really like, or Maniac Mansion is probably an earlier one, really big. Lucas had some, Monkey Island, Full Throttle, The Dig.
Pit.
The Pit. I don't know Pit.
That's Atari.
Oh, it's
Atari. I played it on Atari.
No, I believe
Just
you.
Swing over the. I don't even know what that pond was.
I know, but that's
quicksand.
No, I know what game you're talking about.
Oh no,
it's
not
called Pit.
No, that's called something else. That's like that.
Yeah.
Pit is a board game from. We were talking about Freaks and Geeks off camera or off air, whatever. We're off mic, and the dad talks about Pit. That's a special interest of mine. TV actually is. If I'm just gonna take this conversation over,
Go for it.
the way that it happens though. So like there are some TV shows that are going to stand the test of time, like The Office and Freaks and Geeks, where I could know basically every line and talk about it for a really long time if someone else was equally immersed. Like me and my best friend, she and I killed everybody in an Office themed trivia night. Didn't expect that. I thought there would be more people who understood it.
I like there was a little like, not they didn't remember it, they just didn't get it. They don't get The Office like we do.
I mean, watching it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, but like that's how life is. I think I said a few episodes ago, Fargo was becoming that for me, and it's not just I watched the series and moved on to something else. I can do that with some stuff, but for whatever reason, I had to watch the Fargo series 3 times. This was just recent. This was this year, maybe within a month. I don't know. I mean, they're not very long seasons.
Pitfall. Sorry.
There you go. Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. It is Pitfall. But yeah, like I when I really like a show, I can't just watch it one time. I feel like I need to watch it a few times, and it's not a certain number I have to get to. It's just like until I'm ready to move on, it just needs to be on loop. And I don't know why, but I would put this under the category of special interests because, I mean, I couldn't tell you a million things about Fargo, but I was just like, the series is really good. I believe the writing is really good because I don't always love scripted anything. But I don't know. There are many TV shows, like also true crime, same sentiment there. All of the like when you say things about like Jonestown and things like, or like the Zodiac Killer, I'm just like, God, that's like talking about Starbucks to me. I'm just like, okay. I understand that they're way different, but it's just like everybody knows so much about that stuff. Like, and there's so much content out there. And for the most part, it's all regurgitation of the same shit. Like there's not a lot of variation there. So it's like millions of people have, not millions, but like, you know, just like, come on, tell me something I don't know about Jeffrey Dahmer or whatever, you know.
Right.
The Dahmer series was pretty good.
I was going to say, it took me a second to get what you meant by talking about Starbucks, but then I got it.
It's just like, you know.
Like how there's Starbucks on every street.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That was...
Oh, no. That is part of being an ADHD person. Anyway, as you can tell, my affect lifted as soon as I started talking about TV and serial killers and shit.
Which is, I'd say, also one of the other things, just coming back to that, and correct me if I'm wrong on this.
You're wrong.
But the narrow light, but I think you've said you don't watch a lot of TV that isn't a program that you're like that isn't like an Office or something like that.
Right. I mean, of the same categories. Yes, that is true. On paper, I should love Parks and Rec. I just don't have it in me. I can't get attached to another thing that is similar.
I get that.
I have just gotten into Deadwood, which is an old HBO show.
I'm familiar with it.
Which I'm liking it. It's not going to be a special interest, I don't think, for a few reasons. And one of them, I was like, especially in season 1, every other word is cocksucker. And it's just an inordinate amount of that word. And it wasn't like a trigger word, or I'm just like, the way that they're saying it, I'm just like, this doesn't seem old timey to me. I don't know. It probably was. I mean, I don't know what the swears were back then.
Right.
But everyone's a cocksucker, a cocksucker, a cocksucker.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay. Like, I am over that word.
Right.
For no reason. It's not offensive to me.
No.
Just
like
it doesn't. It's not hitting me in the way this is meant to. I don't think.
If it were replaced with ignoramus, it would have probably gotten to you quicker because that's a weird word.
That's a weird word for that time.
But yeah,
frame.
or but it's not the word itself. It is the repetitiveness of it.
So much, like every character calls people cocksuckers a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like generally there is variation and people prefer certain words for talking about people they hate.
Right.
But everyone's a cocksucker.
Right.
And I don't think language was super simple back then, really. Like there were many other words.
I mean, you're already throwing out like 3 syllables on that.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, I don't know. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I've had, but I've noticed that I've veered off and have started doing other things as I'm listening to it. Because it's a show that you listen to. I don't have to watch it to know what's going on. I know everyone's voice now. Like, it's not a huge, like, visual show where you have to see every single thing, which is great for me because I love to do many things at once anyway. But this is getting very boring even to me talking about this right now.
I will say real quick, without tearing you down, you ingest art the way you feel best needs to be ingested.
Right.
But I am a sit down and watch person. I am not but also I used to make films. So that's
right.
That's part of it.
Right. And I think now I don't give myself a hard time about it. But for a long time, I thought there was something wrong with me.
No.
Because no other people didn't do things that way. And if I'm sitting down and just watching something, I go into power down mode. I can't, like, my brain won't do it unless I'm at the movies, which we talked about this on here. Mm-hmm. And I don't go to the movies because I don't want to be rude. And it doesn't matter how loud or how interesting, it is a struggle for me to keep my eyes open. Mm-hmm. And there are many movies that I've seen that I've had to go home and rewatch when they come out or whatever because I missed some stuff. And it's actually a very good movie. It has nothing to do with the quality.
Yeah, I'll say, and it's just I ingest the lion's share of my reading through audio, and so I definitely there's some people that view that as an invalid way of like, oh well, you haven't read that book, and it's like, no, I think that's just as valid. So I don't want to take away any of the validity of how you ingest media just because it's different than mine.
Well, thank you for saying that. Mm-hmm. I on that book note, like for myself, I like both reading and listening. Mm-hmm. It does count if you've absorbed it mm-hmm. and you know what happens, then mm-hmm. you've read it in some way. In my head, I do make this distinction, but only for myself. Mm-hmm.
Which also, yeah, that's.
Other people, it doesn't even matter to me how many books you've read or listened to be honest.
It's weird that you say that because I am that way about films. I will often say like, oh, I did watch this film, but I was doing something else at the time. So I don't consider that having watched the film mm-hmm. because I haven't taken in all of the things that I am looking for from moving pictures synchronized with sound. And you might say, oh, they don't always have to be synchronized with sound. And as the next sound guy, I say, fuck yourself. Yes, they do.
What do you think about Nosferatu then?
No, obviously. I
mean, come on. They didn't even have sound. Yeah, they actually kind of, I don't know if they did. It was what, 1931?
I don't know, Nosferatu. I mean, I don't know. It's not one of the movies I have encyclopedic knowledge of.
It's probably the only non-verbal film that I have encyclopedic. Not even. I don't claim to know everything about it. I just love the imagery of that vampire.
You know, they got sued from Bram Stoker. No, Bram Stoker's estate because it was.
Well, they can't do that now. Now it's public domain.
Yeah, but at the time, I mean, they got sued from Bram Stoker's estate. That has a
is it Stroker or Stoker? Bram.
from the guy who wrote Dracula's Estate because it was a ripoff of Dracula. They couldn't but that's why they called him Nosferatu. They're like, let's make a Dracula movie. They're like, we don't have the rights to that. Let's make a Nosferatu movie.
You know what's funny about Bela Lugosi, who played Dracula?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize how much into the occult that he was, and he has he used to do scrying, which is something I'll never do. You stare into like a mirror until shit starts moving and changing. He was like really into it. Okay, area of special interest, and I know you don't care about it. It's fine.
No.
But like this, I'm not offended at all.
Yeah. No.
It's kind of like when you were talking about wrestling. I was like,
no. I'm not. I want you to know, I'm not saying that I don't care about it. I'm saying you're wrong. That is interesting to me.
Oh.
And I was, because I was gonna say, I know this is just because of how I came up artistically, and kind of my special interest in the outlaw arts, that I know Bela Lugosi more from his later career, when he started working with like Ed Wood and stuff like that. And so I was just, and I know like you're a Tim Burton fan. Have you ever seen Ed Wood, the movie?
Yeah. Edward Scissorhands and Crispin Glover. Yes.
The Edward. Oh yes.
I
yes.
mean, Johnny.
That took me.
Edward Scissorhands is my number one. With that non-Freudian slip, fuck Freud. Different podcast, different time.
All right. We will make.
You can leave that in.
We'll make a podcast about your weird sexual fascination with Freud.
No. You know what? We should talk about therapy on an episode, and I will explain that on that episode, because I will cliffhang that. I just wanted to talk about. So I didn't actually just want to do this, but it was funny how it happened, and then I was like, oh, definitely area of special interest, because the first cat that I ever got that was mine. His name is Ferratu. And then.
And he looks like a Nosferatu. The second I saw your cat, I was like, oh, I get it now.
And like one of his baby photos that I saw, like he was like up on his hind legs like this. I was like, of course, he's a fucking vampire. And then his little baby brother, same parents, different litter. I named him Lugosi. I love, but I call him Ghosty because it's just what happened.
I named one of my cats because like, sorry, I had something coming. I wasn't about to cry.
I'm so offended. Don't cry.
I wasn't going to cry.
I thought you said you were going to cry.
No. I said no. I mean like acid. I had like GERD kicking up in the back of my throat.
Ugh, that's the worst.
Yeah. But I realized it looked like I was about to, and we were talking about cats, and I was like, I wasn't about to cry. No, because my mom was the crazy cat lady growing up.
That's me now.
Yeah. No.
Yes.
Not to my mom's extent. You talked to me when you got cats in the teens. But
there will be a time. I just need a bigger house.
No, I believe in you. You're just not there yet.
I'm coolifying the crazy cat lady.
Yeah.
Everyone else are the ones missing out. Anyway.
Yes. I'm with you. I would love 100 cats. But so like I got to name some of the cats because we just had a bunch, and just because you had Nosferatu and Lugosi, I named one of our cats Argento after the Italian
Dario Argento.
Yes.
Took a horror films class.
Ooh. But yeah, and so no. I'm sorry. This cat died a long time ago. I was a very pretentious 15-year-old. Dario. I named my cat Dario. Later found out it was a girl, but I was fine with that.
They
Dario
don't know.
Can deal.
As far as we express gender, our cats don't know that their names are even gendered.
Right.
Half of them don't even know their names, and the other half don't come when you call their name. So names and cats That's for us humans.
But I also had a horror named cat, so that's
yeah.
I like horror themed cats.
Me too. I mean, it goes well. All right, I think I'm ready to be all done. Okay, well, thanks for sticking it out. If any of the special interests that we discussed at the end didn't interest you, hopefully you fast forwarded to this point. I don't know, or you could have turned it off, I guess, or maybe listened to hear what it's like to have two people with special interests talk about
Maybe
it.
give a shit about someone besides yourself for once in your miserable life.
Flip that on ourselves. All right, but if you liked any of this, thought it was worthwhile, want to hear some more, like, rate, subscribe wherever you're listening to this, please. And leave a 5-star review if you feel so inclined. And if you would like to find us on social media, internet places, look for us at InnerMoxiePod on Instagram and TikTok. You can email us myinnermoxiepod@gmail.com. Send us your thoughts, insights, special interests. You know, if you have no one to tell your fascination with something, you write us a novel about it and send it. I'll read it. If you want to find me on the internet, you can find me on Instagram at Zanism, Zannism. I am a religion and a disease, as previously discussed.
Always. Also, I would add on to your list of fine favors we've asked from our audience. Tell a friend.
Tell 4 friends.
Tell 4 friends. Yeah,
not 5.
In all honesty, spreading the word is kind of one of the best things that we could have going for us right now. And we'd really appreciate it. If you want to hear more of me, you can catch me over on my podcast, the Band Media Podcast. Also, you can find me on all the socials, but where I'm most active is on TikTok at Band Ronnie.
Yep. And with that, we say bye. No cheese bags?
Well, no.
You were waiting for that. I know. Now it's a routine. Stay fresh, cheese bags. Bye.
Later.